Now, dangerous nuclear escalation by Vladimir Putin over European skies comes to light. Sweden has now revealed that earlier this month, Russian bombers armed with nuclear warheads entered European Union airspace before being intercepted by Swedish fighter jets. Swedish media and the reports now saying that 4 of Vladimir Putin's Sukhoi warplanes swooped in over the Baltic towards the island of Gotland in Baltic Sea. 2 of the members were identified as Russian Su-24s, which were found to be carrying nuclear warheads. They were escorted by 2 jets, possibly Sukhoi 27s. In fact, the Su-24's bombers, as seen in the images here, with the single stabilizer tails, were the ones armed with nukes, as per Swedish claims and European and Australian media reports as well. The 4 Russian jets were intercepted by 2 Swedish JAS-39 Gripen aircraft, which forced them to return. Russia's move is now being seen as an intimidation tactic to arm twist Sweden after it pledged military aid and anti-tank weapons for Ukraine.
At the tactical level and strategic level, there are 2 signals from this Russian action. One, Sweden was to give Carl Gustafs to Ukraine very, very potent weapon systems, anti-tank weapon systems to take on armored columns. Now, all of this was a signal. Ukraine, apart from its Javelin anti-tank guided missiles, apart from its Stinger surface-to-air missiles, is also looking for other military hardware. While it's considered defensive, but it plays a very critical role in stalling the advance of Russian fighters and Russian columns that are moving forward. Any country that's promising these weapons is in the line of Russian fire, so to say. It's a message tactically to Sweden not to give weapons and systems to Ukraine. And strategically, it's a big message that's going out to other countries. Basically, Russia is trying to send out a message to the United States, to United Kingdom, to North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries not to get directly involved in Russia's war with Ukraine in terms of giving them military hardware and escalating it, not to declare a no-fly zone. Ukraine's President Zelensky in the past 1 month and counting has repeatedly asked for 3 things. 1, declaration of a no-fly zone. NATO hasn't done that. 2, fighter jets. Countries like Poland promised fighter jets but were scared to give it directly to Ukraine, sought to give it to Germany instead for transfer to Ukraine. America says that's untenable. That also hasn't happened. And 3 is tanks, offensive weapons. All of that, again, not happening. So there's a message that Russia is sending out to other countries in the region. Do not help Ukraine. Russia's aim is to ensure that the existing supply of weapons and systems and those defensive weapons and systems, that's checked, curtailed, future supplies curtailed, and then it will deal with Ukraine in the times ahead. Though on ground, there are, of course, some signals that Russia, before the talks that happened in Turkey starting the 1st of April, is showing some signs of relenting.
Now, to give you an understanding to what really happened, Swedish media reported 4 of Vladimir Putin's Sukhoi warplanes swooped in over the Baltic towards the island of Gotland in the Baltic Sea. 2 of the bombers were identified as Russian Su-24s, which were found to be carrying nuclear warheads. In fact, what we hear is that they were escorted by 2 jets, possibly the Sukhoi 27s. The 4 Russian jets were intercepted by 2 Swedish JAS-39 Gripen aircraft, which eventually forced them to return back. Now, it can't really get more ominous for the world here, fearing an all-out nuclear holocaust amid the Ukraine war after back-to-back nuclear dares from Russia. The possibility of cornered Kremlin using nukes looks all the more real than ever before. Here's a report on why the world is now becoming increasingly more nervous.
An unending invasion war, weeks of savage battle, countless deaths, cities in complete ruin. But no massive win to show on the ground, for Russian President Vladimir Putin. Amidst the fierce fight back by Ukraine and biting Western sanctions, ominous signs for the world have emerged. Putin has resorted to the Brahmastra in his arsenal, the massive Russian stockpile of nuclear weapons, openly threatening a no-holds-barred nuclear war, refusing to rule out the use of nuclear weapons if there is an existential threat to Russia. Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov had earlier warned that any third world war would be nuclear and destructive. A threat repeated by the Kremlin with chilling resonance.
The outcome of the operation, of course, is not a reason for usage of a nuclear weapon. We have a security concept that very clearly states that only when there is a threat for existence of the state in our country, we can use and we will actually use nuclear weapons to eliminate the threat for the existence of our country.
Let me assure you, a responsible member of the international community committed to its obligations to non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Russia is taking every possible measure to prevent Ukraine from getting nuclear weapons and respective technologies.
The nuclear saber rattling is one of many that Russia has openly indulged in. Just days into the Ukraine invasion, Vladimir Putin had put nuclear deterrent forces on high alert as a chilling warning to NATO and the West.
Dear colleagues, as you can see, not only Western countries take unfriendly measures against our country. In the economic dimension, I mean the illegal sanctions that everyone knows about very well. But the top officials of leading NATO countries allow themselves to make aggressive statements with regard to our country. That is why I ordered Defense Minister and Chief of General Staff to put Russian Army deterrence forces on high alert.
It has now emerged that Russia had even dispatched its nuclear ballistic missile submarines into the North Atlantic as the war raged in Ukraine. After their deterrent patrol, the submarines were quietly pulled back by the Kremlin. The West fears that Russia, suffering massive reverses in Ukraine's war theatre, could resort to using tactical nuclear weapons, which are of a small yield but can devastate an entire city. In a bid to escalate the war and force Ukraine to agree to its terms on the negotiations table.
Allies agreed to supply equipment to help Ukraine protect against chemical, biological, radiological and nuclear threats. This could include detection equipment, protection and medical support, as well as training for decontamination and crisis management. We are also enhancing allies' preparedness and readiness for chemical and biological and nuclear threats.
A calculated nuclear gambit or plain brinkmanship to turn the tide in a war that has simply not gone Russia's way as expected. Whatever it may be, the Ukraine war triggering nuclear moves comes as a massive alarm bell for the entire world.